depending on where you're joining us from. This is one of those webinars we have a lot of fun doing because it's a very interesting topic, a very dynamic topic, and everyone's interested in what's going on in the mobile world. And so we're going to lay out a little bit about the mobile world in general, and then we'll talk a little bit about our products, but we'll probably talk more about our philosophy about mobility, because this is such a changing piece of the market for us that I think it's good for you to understand how we're looking at it, and that kind of shows you what we're going to be doing coming up. So in terms of our solution set, we have a very broad solution set. We tend to break things down in categories to make it a little easier to talk about. So our core platform, we have a UC interoperability piece that is just a very powerful part of our solution because it lets us connect to all those existing environments out there. It really gives us the opportunity to go out and play everywhere. And that's very important to us. And on top of that, we have 3 tiers of applications, and we tend to break it down into UC Mobile, which is a mobility piece. We'll talk mostly about that today. UC Voice, which is the more traditional voicemail, call processing, call control pieces. And then UC Business Process, which is really our custom tools that let us build unique things when people come to us with a need that we don't actually address in our core product. But today we're going to look at the UC Mobile piece. And we're going to talk a little bit about our solutions and a little bit about the market itself, because keeping track of the mobile market is it's a pretty full-time job. If you look at our products, we really do span from the smallest business to the largest business. We have a feature set that's identical between them. So everything that we're going to talk about today, if you had a small 50-person company and you were looking at putting our solutions in, you'd get every bit of the functionality we're talking about today in the CXS product. And if you need 50,000 users spread across the world, you can put our product in. Our solutions will be the same. That is actually one of the great things about our product. It lets the maintenance of it be a lot easier because it's similar everywhere that it goes. So if we talk about the mobile challenges, everyone out there that's called into this webinar, I'm sure, faces these challenges. There's a lot of mobile workers. People tend to work more and more away from their fixed desk. We've done a really good job at giving them all sorts of tools at their desktop. Over the years, you've developed a great network, some groupware functionality, the PBX. Everything that they need to kind of process that day-to-day workflow is there. And what's the challenge now is when they step away from that desk. So we're going to look at how to improve that connectivity and that productivity for mobile workers, how to keep them as productive using one of their mobile devices as they are when they have that full set of tools at their desktop. And then, of course, as soon as we go remote, we make the IT people nervous because we have some issues with security. And the biggest issues over probably the last couple of years is the bring your own device movement, which is your employees buying their own devices because they like them and they want them, and now they want to use them, and you're stuck with maintaining that connection and making sure it's secure. And then looking at unified messaging for those remote users in all those different environments that companies have. And we're going to talk about a couple of those. And then the hands-free piece of functionality for mobile workers, which is a very important piece kind of in a limited area. We tend to talk about, you know, when we're mobile, for most of us, some amount of that time is in a vehicle and driving, and we really don't want to lose that productive time. So we're going to take a look at our solutions in terms of what we can offer in all these mobile environments to, once again, focus on that connectivity and productivity for the mobile workers. And, you know, mobility is definitely the piece of the UC story right now that's getting the most attention. And there's a number of reasons for that. I think the nature of what we can do, what anybody with mobile solutions can do in terms of improving productivity and connectivity can be demonstrated fairly easily. And then once again, the fact that everyone's bringing in their own devices sort of means they're going to do it with you or without you, and with you is a much better solution. And probably this is one of the best slides to look at in terms of not only what's going on right now, but where it's probably headed. If you look at mobile devices, and feature phones kind of were the pre-smartphone versions where maybe you had a little web browser on them, maybe a little bit of intelligence on the email side, and those migrated to smartphones, and the smartphone piece has been around a long time, and one of the biggest parts of bring your own device. And then mobile PCs, almost every mobile worker has a PC, no matter what other devices they carry. And then the latest and greatest challenges in that list of devices are the new tablets. And that's the one that's probably generating the most press right now, and that's because Apple has come out with the iPad mini, Windows come out with the Surface. Everyone's going tablet crazy, and it's a pretty rare meeting that I don't go into where I sit down at around a table and people get out their phones, their tablets, their PCs, and quite frequently somebody has 2 or 3 of those devices. And that's because the functionality of the devices varies. Different tasks are done better on different types of devices, and nobody's quite sorted that all out yet. If you look over in the chart on the right, what they're talking about is an interesting shift to mobile OS, mobile operating systems. And then what that chart is saying, that comes 2014, which is just not that far away, there'll actually be more devices with the mobile OS than with the PC operating system. So if you think about, you know, a lot of the people in your own company, they definitely have a PC, they definitely have a mobile phone, probably most of them have a tablet, and there's probably more than one of them that has 2 phones or 2 tablets. And once again, it's the functionality available on these devices that's partially driving their proliferation. To be fair, a good part of the drive for mobile devices isn't all that much about business. It's more about toys. We like our toys. We want our music player and the ability to watch videos on an airplane, and you know, all these things we can do in the mobile device make it much more desirous for us to have it with us. And since we have it with us, we're also going to do the business functions. And there you go with bring your own device. And there's really no way to slow this down or stop it, so the trick is to get ahead of it. If you look at talking to employees, there's been surveys out there, this is an Information Week one, where people went out and talked to business people, you know, a wide spectrum of areas and different types of jobs. And they said, if your enterprise, if your company were to start rolling out new apps for productivity for you, which are the important devices? And then they went by category. You know, where would you like to get your voice called? Well, pretty much telephone and whatever mobile device that has a phone channel. Voicemail, unified messaging is actually one of the bigger pieces right now in terms of what people are deploying. Directory lookup to the telephone, email. If you notice, most of the rest of these, it's the mobile device. Now, part of the reason is people have these at their desktop. In a lot of cases, a lot of this technology is rolled out and it's in day-to-day use when someone sits at their desk, but when they move away, they don't have that functionality. And now what they're looking for is getting as much from their mobile device as they can. We always struggle when we make these. What do we show for a mobile device? Is the average mobile device a smartphone today? Is it a tablet? Just, you know, what is it? And you know, heaven help us if we actually pick a brand and put something up there that can be recognized. Because everyone has a different idea on what the perfect mobile device is. And for most people, that idea changes depending on where they're working and what they're trying to do. We struggle with the concept of mobile devices and applications, because while we really believe in moving all of our application functionality to every type of mobile device that a user can use, because we know those change during the day, it really is quite different what you would deliver on a PC screen compared to a smartphone screen, and even compared to a tablet screen. The real estate is different, the connectivity is different, the functionality is different. So there is no one-size-fits-all mobile solution any longer. You can't simply extend an email client for unified messaging and say you're in the mobile market. What you need to do now is understand the mobile devices, understand the feature set, and then custom tailor everything for every type of device. And we do that. So a lot of the work we do has to do with taking the same kind of functionality and delivering it slightly different. If you're calling in over your mobile phone on the phone channel, we have a great hands-free interface. And what we deliver in that hands-free interface is custom built for somebody basically sitting in a car who has just speech commands. And we've made sure that that functions. At the time, people sitting somewhere using their mobile device, their smartphone, we deliver a lot of that same functionality, but it's completely different. Because we have a small screen with real estate, we have to make certain things work in a certain way so they work just like everything else on that phone, and we have a different kind of connectivity. So for each one of these features, we sort of go through the list of how do we get it out to all these devices. Now, the device piece is It's getting broader every time we redo this slide. We kind of keep it down at a minimum here. But you certainly have the regular telephone interface. For us, because we started on the voicemail side, DTMF commands on the phone. We deliver all our functionality that way, have for years, and that's still certainly a popular way for people to keep on top of their voice messages, even reading their email messages over the phone. And like I just referred to, we extended that by putting a speech recognition interface capability, and now those users can not only do all the same things they could do over a regular telephone connection with DTMF, but because we have speech, we can extend that. We can let them access their calendar over the phone, which would be very difficult to do with just keystrokes. So my ability to say, what are my appointments for today, is much easier to do than if I were to try and dial through some sort of command structure to do that. We also have web clients, full-size web clients and smaller web clients for the browsers on mobile phones. And we deliver a lot of our functionality to that. And that has to be tailored completely different. And then the desktop clients themselves. Anything we do on a full desktop has a completely different look than it would for one of the smaller devices. And then the last piece here, which is sort of our big thrust for this year, is our native mobile clients. We've gone out and created native applications, and you go out and get them from the App Store just like you do any other application, for both Android and iPhones. And those apps, once again, a completely different set of functionality, tuned for the smaller interface. So it is a screen, it is a touch screen, so there's a lot of good things you can do there, but the real estate's a lot different. So all of these for us are important, because if you start out your business week, you will pretty much touch every one of these as you go through your week. You'll spend some time at your desk with your basic screen clients like your Outlook. You'll maybe spend some time on a web browser when you're in a hotel or even an internet cafe. You'll be on the phone for sure, and if you have the speech interface, that's even better. And of course, all of us spend more hours than we like to think about staring at our little mobile phones, doing everything in the world from email to other kind of contacts, phone calls, everything. So all of those interfaces are important to us. Now, this list grows. We probably are going to have to add tablets to this pretty soon. There's certainly things we already support on tablets, and probably if you look at the iPad mini and the Windows Surface, two of the biggest things in the news in the last couple of weeks, those are going to drive in the business market a lot more activity even than we've seen before. And so once again, more clients, more functionality, more ways to connect. It's very important to us to stay on top of this. So if we look at mobile devices, I think Emily wants to talk to you about what you use.
Okay, so for all, we are wondering, what type of smartphones does your organization currently use or plan to move to? iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Windows Mobile, or other? And you can go ahead and select more than one. And just wait a couple more seconds so people are voting for that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And for the results, Neil, I'll go ahead and read these to you because I know you can't see them. The iPhone is at 71%, Android at 61%, BlackBerry 45%, Windows Mobile 13%, and other is 6%.
Now, those are interesting results. Pretty soon we're going to have to start adding some other devices on there as we see more and more of these roll out. But the breakdown is about what we'd expect. I think what we find in the business world is iPhone tends to be king. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, the great marketing job that Apple did is part of that. Also, the Apple Store, well, it's a little restrictive. It's the only way to get applications on an iPhone. They do a really good job of policing the quality. So I think a lot of people are very happy with everything that comes out to their iPhone. And that includes our app as well. We had to go through the store and the process of having them check it out and make sure it's done right and that it's well engineered. So that helps. The Android numbers are a little smaller, possibly because their app store is a little less selective. So people tend to not always find that they like everything they get from that store. And then, of course, BlackBerry, unfortunately, without a strategy right now, is starting to lose market share fairly significantly. They have a plan for the first quarter of next year. We'll see if they can bounce back. But today, that tends to be the embedded product, not the growing product at all. And then the other is those holdout people that actually don't have a smartphone, probably. And I know there's some of them out there. So let's take a look at some of these solutions in terms of from a mobile device point of view. Unified messaging is certainly an important thing for anybody that's in the business world, because you have phone calls, you have voice messages, you have email messages, you might have fax messages, and if you're mobile, those tasks, they don't hold very well. It's not like somebody sends you an email and they'll be understanding when you say, "Oh, I wasn't at my desk, so I didn't get back to you." So having all that functionality available on whatever mobile device you use is important. So we support a wide range of mobile devices, and we get a chance to kind of, when we go out and meet with customers, talk about what they're using in the way of devices and making sure we keep on top of this market. This happens to be a screenshot of one of our smartphones, just showing our messaging app. We do messaging and call control and everything on those apps. We are recognized as the best of breed solution within the unified messaging space, and it's not surprising. We've been doing it since 1991, and we've led the market for all those years. And part of our success comes from our feedback from our customers. Our customers constantly say, "Oh, we like that app, but wouldn't it be better if it did this? We're looking at moving towards this kind of device. We believe this kind of functionality added to it would be of benefit." And we listen to those customers, and every time we have a software release, we're adding and tuning these kind of applications. So if you're looking at unified messaging, you can read any of the reports out there. Gartner's probably one of the biggest ones, and they will tell you, we've got this piece down. We've been doing it for years, and I think we have a good, solid understanding of the challenges, not just the functionality, but the architecture challenges, and then the issues on compliance and confidentiality. So we're always happy to have that discussion with a potential customer. Now, if we look at the mobile device itself, there's a couple of things out there that make it a little bit challenging. The first one is, in this bring-your-own-device market, what happens a lot is the end user, the employee, gets their own device, they're paying their own bill for, and they bring it in, they want to connect to the network, and they want to do business with it. And then at the end of the month, they come back and saying, "Oh, wait a minute, man, my minutes are way up, I need you to help pay for this." And now you have some real issues with the ability to separate personal and business communications on a single device. And our mobile client does that. Our mobile client's a fantastic tool environment to allow them to use the regular side of their telephone to make their personal calls, and to use our client to make their business calls. Not only does that separate it, but it gives you a record of all those business calls in a separate location that you can access, control, and basically use as the tool to resolve whatever conflicts they have on their device. So we'll talk a little bit about some of that functionality, but it's great in the BYOD movement to understand that there is a way to do that and still make both sides happy. And then the trick, of course, to doing this is challenge number 2. It has to be an intuitive interface that makes it easy to use. One of the things about these mobile apps, when you bring them up, they all just seem real easy. And part of that's because they're well written, hopefully. But the other issue is there are toolkits you use to make these that make the apps fairly similar. Where buttons appear and how the functions work, there's kind of an interface that's of that device. And by building these native devices, not using a little web app, but actually building them with the native toolkits, now people open them up, they go to the screen, they know what button to hit, and they take very little training. So between the fact that they can simply go out to the App Store and download it, configure it, and start using it without any training, and the fact that you can separate business and personal, it now makes a lot more sense in an enterprise to not only allow but even encourage the deployment of these mobile devices. And there's a lot of apps we're not going to have a chance to talk about today on these mobile devices, but it's just good to know that the support is there. And everything that we do on these apps is secure, meaning we use secured protocols to communicate with the phone, and we don't store anything on the phone. So should one of your employees lose their device, they call you up and they're all worried, they had all this information on them that they think might be confidential, you just go to the client on our system, turn off that connection, and that device now no longer works. And there's nothing stored, so there's no messages on it, there's no call logs, there's nothing unique on that device. It's architected that way both for security and for minimum impact on the device. So if you look at these mobile clients, and this is true both on the Android client and the iPhone client, they're native apps. You get them from the business store. They have that separation. And now if you look at the functionality, placing, receiving, and managing calls, that includes managing incoming calls with some very unique tools we'll look at. Single number reach, you're actually able to give out the one number for our system, and now you control where those calls go. So if you're out somewhere and you want your calls coming directly to your mobile phone, you control that. If you're at your desk and you want your calls to ring to your desk first and then overflow to your mobile phone in case you're away from your desk, you control that as a user as well. So that Find Me, Follow Me functionality controlled from the mobile device is a very, very popular feature. Mobile number protection we'll look at in terms of not having the mobile number itself displayed for outgoing calls when you make them from our client is very popular because it keeps you in control not only of your minutes on that phone, but also of where calls go when they come in. If nobody captures your mobile phone, then you can control that incoming call routing. We'll look at visual call screening, managing voicemails, both of them, and then, of course, settings management. I can go in and change all my settings. I can do this from a phone interface. I can do it from a web interface, but there's really nothing handier than that mobile device because it's pretty much within 3 feet of you all day long. Maybe not at night, although a lot of people I know actually sleep with it on the bed next to them now. So let's look at visual call screening because this is a very interesting solution. And this is one that came directly from our interface with our customers. On our speech interface, we have a really great call screening tool. So if you call me and I'm just getting out of my car and I'm heading into a customer meeting and I answer my phone and it says, you have a call from John Tyler. I can say, oh, I need to talk with John, but I can't take it right now because I'm going into my meeting. So you can say acknowledge and then record a message for John. Hi, John. Listen, I'll be going into a meeting and I'll call you as soon as I get out. So we've had that with our speech interface for years. But a lot of people said, well, that's really good, but what if I'm not in that environment? What if I'm sitting in a meeting? You know, in a meeting, you can screen and triage your incoming email kind of quietly with your device down on the desk, and that's pretty typical for people to do today. But phone calls are a bit of a challenge. You can't really answer them and then say, oh, no, this one isn't important enough. You'll have to call me back later. And you've interrupted the meeting. So what we've done is taken that same kind of call screening we've always had on the telephone channel and moved it to the data channel on the mobile device. So now I have a mobile device, and it has a data connectivity that's silent. And now I'm sitting in a meeting, and I know that there's at least one call I'm waiting for that's important enough for me to step out of the meeting for. But I can't really answer all my calls. So by sending the calls to my data channel, any incoming call causes a pop-up on my phone. And I will see the A&I number of the caller. If that caller's in my contacts or on my system, I'll see their name. And now I have choices for what I do with this call. Now, if I look at that and it's just a call from somebody, I know what it is, I'm not worried about it right now, I hit reject, it goes straight to voicemail. If it's somebody I absolutely need to talk to right now, I hit accept, and I step out into the hall, and by the time I'm there, my phone is ringing, and I can take that call. So that lets me take those important calls. I can also do that acknowledge feature, where if I hit acknowledge, I can just pick my phone up quickly and say, yeah, listen, John, I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Put the phone down, John hears that acknowledgement message, I can move on with the meeting. And you'll see enhancements coming shortly where you can actually just hit a button and the system will automatically play back some pre-recorded messages for those callers as well. So very popular tool for people who spend their day in meetings. Very unique in terms of there's really no other product that lets you stay on top of those calls and make a decision based on who's calling and why, whether it's more or less important than what you're doing right then in the meeting. So that's one of the advantages of using these new devices is they don't just have a voice connection, they have a nice quiet data connection. I talked a little bit about placing outgoing calls from the device. You can do that by dialing the number, by calling somebody from your contacts or your directory. There's both a message log and a call log. Either one of those will let you place a return call. And what happens is the data packet goes out, goes to our CX system. Our CX system calls you back on your voice channel. Now that's an incoming call, which has implications on various billing structures. And then it makes the outgoing call from the CX system and it connects the two calls. What that means is that outside party sees the CX phone number, and that's where they'll be calling back looking for you from now on. And you've actually now got a record on the CX system of that business call. The single number reach piece, we actually deliver two things in this area. The first, we have a really good speech automated attendant. And if you were to have a couple of us come out and talk to you about our solutions going into your enterprise and we handed out our business cards, you notice we all have the same phone number on them. And when you call that number, you get our speech automated attendant with actually who you want to talk to and basically does the connection. So that's sort of a single number reach on the for everyone scale. But more importantly, I only have one number on my card. I don't have my mobile number. I don't have my home office number. I have one number. Using my Find Me, Follow Me rules, I control how my incoming calls are processed. So if I want to get calls at my office on my desk phone, I have a rule that does that. And I can have a schedule, or I can use an override to move those calls around. Likewise, I can have up to 99 numbers associated with my device, and I can move calls to those numbers or lists of those numbers when I want to. So when I travel, I can send them directly to my mobile phone. In my case, when I go to my hotel, I send them directly to my Microsoft Lync client, because I'm on the network. I can get my free calls to my hotel that way. So complete control, and all you need to do is give out one number to your customers. You don't have to say, call me on this number if you're calling tomorrow morning, but in the afternoon I'll be away, so call my mobile. You don't have to give them all those numbers, and you only have to give them a single number and let the system do the work, and you control it. The mobile number protection piece we've referred to already. If we use our client to make the phones, it's actually the CX system making the outgoing phone call, and that outgoing phone call will display the CX access number, which means when they call you back, it'll come into the CX system, meaning that your find me, follow me rules will then be in effect, and you can control your call. So there's a lot of reasons to use our client to make your business calls. It not only helps in protecting your mobile number, probably lowering your bill through minutes, but it also lets you completely control where those calls go when the customer does call you back. We talked a little bit about the speech interface. It's actually one of my favorite pieces of our product, because I spend a lot of time in a car commuting, like a lot of us do, unfortunately, but also when I go out into the field to support our salespeople, we might spend an hour or two driving between appointments. It's pretty typical in most of the big cities today to spend that kind of drive time. And what will happen is the salesperson and I will go into a meeting, we'll conclude that meeting, we'll now have, let's say, an hour drive to our next meeting, we'll both climb in the car, we'll both put our Bluetooth headsets on and call into the system. And the system will answer. In my case, it'll say, hello, Neil Butler, what would you like to do? And I might say, what are my meetings for today? And it'll go to my Exchange calendar, in my case, read me back my meetings. I can actually create a meeting if I need to as well. I might say, get my new voice messages, get my new email messages. I might, having come out of that, know that I want one of my other sales engineers to get some information together so I can place calls to anyone on my system or anyone in my contacts. And it's pretty typical for us to maintain that connection for that entire drive until we get to work. Because basically, what we've done is change previously unproductive car time into productive time. It's very similar to what I can do working at my desk. I can triage my messages, set up appointments and meetings, read my calendar, make phone calls, all those same kind of things I'd be doing if I was handling that same business while sitting at my desk. So if you look at the mobility piece, what we really like to do is get out there and find out what you have in the way of mobile workers and what we can do to keep them more connected, create notification tools so we can let them know what's going on. And then productivity, which is you can go out and kind of get a better idea of all the other things we have on our website or by contacting us. We can go in and talk about unified messaging in your environment today, no matter what it is. We don't care what your email system is, what your network architecture is. We don't care if you're different domains, and one of them can be 2003 and one of them can be 2010. None of those are a challenge. If you remember that first slide, that interoperability layer lets us play in any environment, any phone system, any email. We have a great hands-free communication solution for anybody that's mobile, particularly in a car. We can give you back a bunch of time and make it productive. And that, for me, is one of the most helpful things on our system. And then the whole mobile device, the whole bring-your-own-device movement, we not only have all the tools to support it and deliver great applications, but we give you control over it. You in the IT department can now make sure that it's secure and it's under complete control. And all of these tools we have deliver the same feature set, which means it's very comfortable for a user to sit at their desktop using our tools, climb into the car and use those same solutions over the telephone interface, to move into the airport waiting for their plane and move them on and use them on their mobile device, and then when they get to the hotel, use a web connection to do the same thing. So all the solutions across all the devices means our connectivity solutions, our mobile solutions, they really get used. They aren't just something that gets bought and sort of put in the background. We make a point of making sure it's easy for people to use them, no matter where their location, no matter what their device. And I think Emily has another question for you here.
I do. Let me just launch this really fast. And I have been getting some feedback that the audio is not great, so we apologize for that, and we will be looking into that.
Huh.
Yeah, we're kind of cutting in and out, Neil. So for this following question, we're wondering how many of our AVST features you're currently using or have implemented. And you can go ahead and select all that apply, whether it's hopefully you're using our voicemail and unified messaging, personal assistant, our speech automated attendant, and UC Connect or Notify Express. So we'll just go ahead and keep this open for a few more seconds. Again, thank you for your participation in voting. And I'll go ahead and close this out now. Okay, and Neil, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine, although you're breaking up a little as well.
Okay. So for the results, we have 88% said voicemail, 73% are using our unified messaging, 35% personal assistant for AVST mobile client, 31% so they're using the speech automated attendant, and then 4% are using UC Connect and or Notify Express.
I am gratified by those numbers. For so many years, we've struggled with our customers implementing any of our advanced features at all. And a lot of that's because we came out with them before anybody knew what they were. But yeah, hearing those numbers like the unified messaging number be that high, that's very great. And hopefully, you'll hear a little more in this and maybe even move into some of the other features as well. So I think now questions from you are in order. We've talked, we've asked you questions. Now why don't you ask us some questions?
Okay, so we do have a few questions. Let me just pull them up. The first question is, with the iPad mini, you mentioned it coming out, and lots of items that are working together. Are you looking into integrating using the iPad with Skype or any other FaceTime features, etc.?
Yeah, and the challenge with doing this has to do with what goes on kind of in those industries. If you look at Apple, they're a great place to start. Apple decided they had a better way of doing things, so they decided not to support some very common protocols, like Flash, which is one of the things that's very popular for a lot of things, and we use that in some of our apps. So we're migrating away from that to extend that some more. And now we look out at some of the current things we've done on other tablet platforms, and the same thing, the protocols are evolving rapidly. It is definitely our goal to support the full range of our functionality on the common tablets. And the common tablets will certainly include the iPad and the iPad mini. I mean, that is obviously the most common tablet. You can actually run some of our applications on them today. They're not ideal on that because, once again, the viewing area being so much different than what we've written for the iPhone, the apps don't look all that good. But you certainly can run some of that functionality. We have an active effort to at least start with the iPad and re-engineer that application. Now, the phone side connection, that's kind of the challenge in terms of today, I can go in and let's say I have an iPad. Now, while it isn't a beautiful experience, I could go into my iPad and load our app, and I can make and receive phone calls on any phone number. So the fact that there's no phone connection on the iPad is not a challenge. So if I have a soft phone in my enterprise, which in my case I have a couple of them, I actually can use that soft phone to receive and make the phone call. So I can already do that kind of combined functionality. The Skype piece is a little more challenging. Now it's going to change, I believe, with it coming into the enterprise in a different path through Microsoft. So yes, we can do some of that functionality, but that architecture is evolving very quickly for those platform makers, for the people. If you look at Windows Surface, it's the exact same story. It's a little better integrated into the enterprise just because of the Windows side of it, but it has those same kind of issues with tying together telephone functionality and screen functionality. I don't think you'll see anything in our next version of software, which is due first quarter coming up here, but I'm sure that in the version after that, you will definitely see more tying together of soft phone functionality and the other tablet functionalities. It's something we're actively pursuing.
Okay, great. Next question is, you had mentioned there were enhancements coming for in-meeting responses. Can you expand on that a little more?
Yeah, I'll get in trouble now because marketing doesn't like me talking about that new stuff. But yes, I mean, as soon as our mobile clients went out and we talked about using them in meetings, people said that is fantastic. But you know, I'm sitting in that meeting, I'm not even comfortable picking up the phone and recording a quick acknowledgement message. Wouldn't it be great if you did something that we could do completely on the data side? So the next version of software will have the ability that when I go to acknowledge, I can record an acknowledgement message that will be played. There will be some pre-canned messages that the system will let you play something like, if I hit a button, what the caller will hear is, Neil Butler was unable to take this call, but we'll call you back in 10 minutes. Let's say it'd be one of the pre-recorded ones. And that is already in development and getting ready to go into test, and you'll see that in our next version of software. Coming in a version after that will support the ability for you to type what you want that announcement to be, and we'll use our text-to-speech engine to render that out. So that is an area that you're going to see a lot of development in because it's turned out to be so popular for people.
Okay, great. And then we just have one more question. I currently have Call Express. What is required to deploy the mobile client?
So the mobile client, first of all, has a software level. You have to have 8.2 software. But if you're 8.2 software, then you're halfway there. The only other thing you need on our system is a personal assistant license. A personal assistant license gives you a wide range of capabilities, gives you the find me, follow me piece we talked about and some other things, but it also lets you download the client and get that full range of client functionality. If you, depending on where you store your messages, if you want to get your messages on that device, so you're not storing them in email, you're leaving them on Call Express, you would also want a unified messaging license so you get your license from the mobile client as well. So 8.2, personal assistant as a minimum, and unified messaging if you also want to handle your messages from the mobile client. You know, I always appreciate it when people come to these. I know it's difficult to take time in your day, and hopefully if you're getting value, you'll let us know. And likewise, if there's other things you'd like us to cover, we're always looking for good ideas for subjects for these webinars. Thank you very much.